On this interview episode, Andy is joined by Austin Manix. Welcome to the Road Home from Wrestling interview.
Here in my car, I feel safest of all. I can lock all my doors, and it's the only way I live in cars.
The tape, and today I'm joined by Austin Manix. How you doing, Austin?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Not bad. Now, you are in the car. You're actually kind of doing the gimmick right now, the Road Home gimmick, except you're going to a show, right?
Yeah, I'm actually making my way down to Dayton for Amps for Rockstar tonight. So roles a little reversed here. Yeah, usually your guys are the ones doing the recording on the road, and now I get to be a part of that as well.
Well, I'm comfy at home, but your home is not in Dayton, Ohio. It's not in Ohio at all. You're from Detroit, Michigan, right?
I am, yeah. Funny little story, I guess, about that is I have predominantly been working outside of Michigan for probably the past 5 or 6 years, to the point where a lot of people in Michigan thought that I actually had moved to Ohio, and I had to tell some of my actual friends that no, I still live in the same place I have for the last 7 years or so in Detroit. So yeah, I'm out of Detroit, but I do wrestle a lot out of state. I don't wrestle local very often, so that's probably where that misconception comes.
Well, that's interesting because a lot of people could mistake you for an Ohio wrestler because you wrestle at a lot of Ohio promotions. You know, we'll get into this a little bit more later, but just real quick, I mean, how is the Ohio wrestling scene different than Detroit? I don't know anything about the Detroit wrestling scene.
There's a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. For the companies that I work for in Ohio and predominantly stay around, the difference being is just the way they're ran, the different talents. Especially coming into Dayton for Rockstar with me and Brandon came in as the Dirty. Rockstar was a destination, and that's where you went to try to get to that next level. And so a lot of it was opportunity based. There's better opportunities, better companies to work for. And a lot of my friends are from Ohio, so that kind of turned into me coming down here a lot, getting booked on a lot of the Ohio shows. And I mean, there's a lot of great companies in Ohio, and it was just a better scene, to be honest with you.
Well, you know, before we started, I dropped a couple, kind of house rules on the podcast, and I forgot to mention one. I'm really sorry. And that is that when you mention the name of your former tag team, it's not the Dirty, it's the Dirty. All right? So let's get that straight, okay?
Okay, all right. I'll probably try to refrain from mentioning them, mentioning that as much then.
Well, you know, I did want to get into the Dirty a little bit, and we you're familiar with us from being at Rockstar Pro, and we that's where we've seen you guys mostly, you and Brandon, when you were a tag team, and you guys had a hellacious run up there. I mean, you were multiple time tag team champions, I think, and you got all kinds of awesome matches that they hooked you up with. When you think about the Dirty, and like your run up there, what are some memories that stick out? Like, you know, maybe the series of matches you had with JD Drake and Anthony Henry. I mean, what are some other stuff that sticks out in your mind that happened at Rockstar?
Man, there's actually quite a few for us, and the one you just mentioned with JD Drake and Anthony Henry is one of our favorites. Those guys were amazing to work with, super tough in the ring, super talented, and to be honest, we learned a lot from working with them. I think still to this day, those are two of our favorite opponents. But being at Rockstar at that time and doing what we were doing was opening a lot of opportunities. We got to work with LAX, the Besties, the Night Riders when it was Alex Colon and Dustin Reyes, Jake Kristen, Trey. I mean, there's a lot, the Jim Nasty Boys. There's a lot of there's a lot of teams in there that we were super fortunate to work with. I would have to say that the top memories were JD Drake and Anthony Henry, and also doing the Impact show with LAX and the Bessies. And another one that really sticks out was when we did our first ever Revolver show. It was the NATO Takes Dayton show, and that was our first opportunity to get on Revolver. And that match was one of the first times that at the end of it, we felt like, okay, this is it. We had a really good match in front of a lot of people, and it kind of helped push us in the direction. That one definitely sticks out.
Yeah, I was at that show, and that actually was the Road Home's triumphant return to Dayton after being cast out, and we made a return that date, and that was a tremendous show. And you're not kidding. I don't think there was any room in there to breathe, let alone pack any more people in. I think that might be the most people I've ever seen in that building. What's your favorite show from Rockstar that you were on? I mean, there was a lot of great shows, a lot of crazy people coming in and out. Was it that Revolver show, or was there like some random amp that I'm not thinking of that was really awesome for you guys?
No, you're pretty much on par with. I don't know if the Revolver one or if 7 won. Last year's 7 was my favorite. Those two are kind of neck and neck, and even if you want to throw that Impact Rockstar show in there as well, I mean, I think probably it's a closer tie between 7 and the NATO takes Dayton, and because like you said, I mean, there was no room. I mean, it was wall to wall people. I mean, there was so many people in there. The crowd was live. They were hype. Those two are the ones that stick out. I would have to say I can't really pick one or the other, but those are my two favorites. That's not to say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but that's not to say that there weren't a ton of amped shows. I mean, every week wrestling there was always fun, especially in that time frame, because every week we were getting a match with a good tag team or multiple tag teams. So those were all fun. It's just those big ones always, stand out a little bit more.
Absolutely. You guys, like Rockstar and a lot of these places that you've come from, your home hours away in Michigan to get to have been opportunities for you to learn. And, I was kind of surprised to find out, I did a little research, which is rare for me. I usually don't do research, but I just wanted to, I wanted to look at your cage match and see kind of where you came from as far as matches go. And it sounds to me like what's on the internet is that you've been around a lot longer than most people realize. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been around technically since 2008. I was trained at the House of Truth by Truth Martini in 2009. So I've been working a little over 11 years. And I did take a little bit of time off due to injury. And I think when I came back, people, especially when we came down to Dayton, they didn't necessarily know, myself or Brandon, didn't know that we had been wrestling as long as we had, which I'm not sure how to take that, but, it's good and bad, I'm sure. But, yeah, I've been wrestling a little over 11 years.
Well, I think that, part of that is that you guys were kind of a tag team that was adjusting to a style, because there's a particular style that's wrestled at any, various indies. I mean, you have a show coming up on Friday at Rockstar Pro versus Gary J. Now, Gary J is a striker dude. I mean, he is the stiff robo ginger. And I've kind of seen you kind of evolve into that, striker dude quite a bit, although I don't want to make this a super long question, but my point is that you've developed your style over the years, and you've gone from someone who's probably started as a singles wrestler to a tag wrestler, and now you're a singles wrestler again, and you have this kind of strong style type of style. How did you develop all that, and how has coming to Ohio kind of helped with all that?
Well, the first 7 years of my career were predominantly in singles, and a lot of that was, still trying to figure out who I was as a wrestler and what my style was going to be. Kind of had a little bit of everything in there. I've always been a fan of Japanese wrestling, wrestling over in the UK. A lot of that is strong style. I also did boxing when I was younger, which a lot of people don't know either. And that more so kind of developed into what I wanted to be. And so when me and Brandon tagged, we both had different styles, but one of the things that we both had in common that we did have hard-hitting, impactful offense. And so we kind of blended that. And then now fast forward to me being back on my own in singles, I really wanted to take that to the next level and really develop more into a lot of the guys I watched growing up, a lot of the style that I watched growing up, which is just strike-based. Also, I just really like punching people in the face and hitting people, so it kind of goes hand in hand.
Well, another guy that really likes to punch people in the face is Lord Crew. And I would say that he and you kind of helped each other just recently, where you had this best of seven series last year or the year before, kind of in that area. And, that was kind of your coming out party at, in our area as a singles wrestler. Do you agree with that? And how did that best of seven series kind of affect your career?
I 100% agree with that. I think it elevated both of us, and we were both at a point in our career at Rockstar and with me just in my career in general that I needed an opportunity like that. And it's kind of weird how it started, but we just got paired up, and Crew and I we meshed right from the go. And he was at a place where he was trying to, get pushed and get on to another level, not just Rockstar, but in general. I was looking for that, next level of, really establishing myself as a singles and trying to be the guy. And, everyone knew me as a tag team until then. So for us both, it really helped us elevate to that next level. And I can't say enough good things about those matches. I thoroughly and 100% in all honesty were some of my favorite matches I've had in my career to this point. So, I mean, if that gives you any indication. But, I mean, it helped us both. I mean, I haven't been pinned or submitted in Rockstar since that series, and that's been about 6 months ago. So it really helped us step out of our shell. A lot of credit goes to Jake Christ in this as well. He's the one that developed it, made it into what it was, and gave us stipulations to where they weren't just a match we were going into each week, rather. Everything had a stipulation, so it really forced us to step outside of our comfort zones, which anytime you do that, you're developing yourself, your character, your body of work. So I can't give enough credit to Jay for all that too as well.
Tell me about one of these stipulations. I can't remember it exactly, but it sounds stupid, but because it's you and Crew, it was awesome. It's like you guys you could only like punch someone a certain amount of times or something. I don't know. There was some kind of wacky one. Tell me about that one.
So that was 3 strikes, you're out, basically. So we're going back to the whole Crew and I both have a very strike-based offense. In fact, the previous 3 matches up to this point have been us just basically beating the shit out of each other. And so Jay threw that one in there and forced us to use our other, everything else in our repertoire to be able to win a match without using, all of our strikes. So it originally started out and originally was going to be just a no strikes at all. And then for whatever reason, it was changed to the 3 strikes, you're out. And so we could each use basically 2, obviously. And it was fun. It was honestly, and out of all the crazy stipulations that we had, I think I was more sore and more beat up after that match for some reason than I was any of the other ones. And I don't know why, but I actually just recently watched that one back a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot of fun to go through that match and to have to really pay attention to all the different transitions and things that you normally would do in a match to where a strike is part of it, especially for someone like me and him. So there was definitely some wild stipulations. That one was a fun one. I'm trying to remember all of them. So the first one, I cannot remember as we're talking. Second one was the 3 strikes to a finish. There was a last man standing. There was a dog collar match, a boards match, a street fight, a Dayton City street fight, dog collar, boards match, dog collar. And then the final one was anything goes. When we first looked at the lineup and stipulations for all the matches, I remember thinking, Jesus, these are going to be brutal. These are going to be really challenging on the body. And they were. I mean, we were doing a street fight on a Wednesday. The 8th match, in fact, our final match was on a Wednesday. And these are all, physical, demanding matches. And they're just one right after another. And honestly, as they broke down, as they went deeper, they got more physical and the more, violent stipulation, I guess, if you will. But it was a lot of fun. I honestly thoroughly enjoyed that whole series.
Well, you guys are both violent dudes, and I think that, sometimes you don't get to kind of I don't know, to do as much violence as you want to do necessarily, because a lot of matches are just straight up matches, and if there's no story behind it, there's no reason for you to kill a guy, or something like that. So, it was awesome to have you guys have this story that can, make these kinds of matches make sense and develop your style right in front of the audience. What's been like one of your biggest aha moments when you're in the ring, and maybe it's finding the camera, maybe it was picking up on something a fan said and something that you said back to them, or what's one of these like moments where you were like aha and you figured something out? Maybe it was way earlier in your career. I just love to hear about when wrestlers learn and how.
Yeah, man, I've had a lot of those moments. As younger on and up into this day, I mean, you never really stop learning. I've had a few moments in the ring earlier on where it was more of the, like, it just clicked to how to get reactions from certain things from the crowd, or finding the cameras, not only the hard cam, but the roaming cam, and making sure that your face is always visible and they can see the expressions and all that. I think those were probably the two. And also, I'll add in there that it's kind of a little bit differently related, but also just realizing I think this was about, I'd say 2 years ago, when I was still tagging. It's just one of those things that just clicked of, you know what, this is like, I've been doing this for so long, it's becoming second nature, and it's not as hard or complicated as everyone seems or makes it out to be, or how it seems at a younger, state in your career, into where you're getting so anxious and nervous and worked up on these bigger shows. And now, like, I'm having a lot more fun. Like, that's been kind of the more eye-opening thing for me in the past year and a half, maybe 2-3 years, I guess. Once, the tag team was clicking, is just how much more fun I'm having and how much easier and everything just kind of flows for me, and how much more confidence I've built. Just the amount of fun that I get to have in the ring with a lot of the opponents is probably the best thing, and probably one of the more eye-opening things that I've gotten to experience in the last few years.
One of the things you said there is pretty awesome. What you described a little bit is this quote from this movie called Shine. It's about this piano player, and he says that you learn the notes so that you don't, so you can forget them, basically. And that's kind of the idea with wrestling. I always kind of liken it to music, where it's kind of each move or each kind of like thing that you do in the ring is a word, and we don't think about speaking, we just do it. So that as you become more and more familiar with the words that you want to say in the ring, then saying them becomes second nature, and you can focus on the other things. What's one of the other things that you've been able to focus on, in the tag team, or now that what's going on with you now?
It's all those little things that you're not paying as close attention to in some of the earlier years, because you're so worried about what's coming next, or what I'm supposed to be doing, or making sure you're doing this to look good. It's all those little things, like your movements, how you get to your different positions, being able to really have the character standing out to where your personality is showing more, facial expressions are showing more, things of that nature. If you're having fun in there, you're not thinking about all the other stuff. You're just kind of going a little bit more organically, and not worried about kind of going through the motions, just and everything you've been taught and everything you've learned, and all these other different things that kind of can bar down on your mind. So you get to pay attention to a lot of those smaller things that when you develop on them, they really can make a huge difference.
I have a pretty cool memory of you, and this is one of the times where it's not that, we see a lot of wrestling, and so, we saw a lot of the dirty, and, and honestly, after a while, it was kind of like, how many times do we get to see the Night Riders versus the dirty? It was getting tedious at times, but you guys were able to do all kinds of different stuff. And I remember in one of those matches, maybe it was one of those, maybe it was a different one, you were outside the ring, and it's like a light bulb went off in my head. And what it was is that you guys had been kind of tweeners. You were kind of your alignment served the story as opposed to the other way around, and which was an interesting concept, because they could bring in whoever, a tag team, and face you guys, and you guys would kind of be whatever you needed to be. And but you were chasing someone around the ring, and I thought to myself, that man is terrifying. My God. And I thought, you would be a tremendous bad guy. And, and I've really, we were up there for your match versus Cole Radrick recently, and it was tremendous, and it was a perfect kind of, booking situation because you're this monster, and Cole's this little plucky babyface guy, and it worked out perfect. How does that kind of feel when you hear stuff like that? And is that the look you're trying to cultivate? Is that I am terrifying and I will rip your face off?
I actually remember listening to your guys' podcast that night on the way home and you making that comment, and absolutely loved hearing that because that is exactly the persona that I try to reflect. I try to, I want to be looked at as scary, and not just a cheesy, like, oh, that guy is trying to be scary. Like, no, I want you to look at what I'm doing in my facials and my emotions and all that, and I want you to really genuinely think that I don't ever want to meet up with this dude if he's pissed off at me, because that's pretty much the character. I mean, so yeah, I absolutely love hearing that. And you made another comment about being kind of a tweener and being able to kind of wrestle either way, whether it's the Night Riders or if it's another babyface team. And that was another thing that kind of developed for me through the tag team, and now even more singles, is it's always been black and white, heel or baby. And for me, I've been a heel predominantly my entire career. And so when we had to do baby stuff, it was not natural for me. And I stopped really buying into that. And I'm me one way or the other. And if you like me, you like me. And if you don't, you don't. There's always been something relatable, even as a heel, to every audience member. So anymore, especially, and now this is kind of thing. If I'm asked specifically to be the bad guy, I'm going to push the envelope a little bit more, and I'm going to be a lot more vicious, but really I'm the same person. And that's more, you're getting the individual and everything that comes along with that, as opposed to putting a label of good or bad on him. And it opens up a lot of things too. So, and plus it's just way more fun.
Well, I think a lot of your best characters in wrestling work either way. And the person doesn't really change that much, except maybe they smile less or smile more. That's about it, And exactly. And I think that's kind of, that's how New Japan is pretty much, is it, yeah, there's heels, I guess, but I mean, it's specific dudes that are in feuds and stuff like that will be a heel or a babyface depending on the situation. But, Naito, for example, is who he is, no matter what. And so, I love that's what pro wrestling is kind of moving towards, because I feel like that, characters are so important. And a guy like you, for example, you can get away with not having any kind of character because you're this giant dude and you're a tremendous wrestler. But when you add those little things and everything, that's what makes the fans remember you when they see you for the first time. It's those kinds of things. I will never forget the first time I saw Space Monkey. You know what I mean? It's an extreme example, but I mean, obviously, I'll never forget that because of his character. Do I remember every move that he did? Absolutely not. In fact, I don't even remember if he won or lost, but the point is I remember the character, and that's tremendous, man. I really thought, like I said, the dirty and everything, that was a great opportunity for you guys, and it was clear to the audience and in my from my viewpoint that it wasn't natural for you guys to do the kind of babyface stuff, but you did good job at it. When you got the opportunities, you guys did what you needed to do, and I think you guys had a great run, and I'm so happy that you're continuing to have a run up there. And like I said, Friday is the 8th anniversary of Rockstar Pro, and you were on the 7th show. Were you on the 6th show?
It was not, no. You know what? I would have to actually go back and look. I don't think we were for some reason, and I couldn't tell you why off the top of my head. Maybe we were, and I'm just blanking out and not remembering. But we definitely weren't in the position we were for 7. If we were, I know we were there around that time. I think that was the maybe second year, first year, or something that we came in to Rockstar, but I don't recall it. Just 7 sticks out for a lot of different reasons, and we were obviously going into that, with the titles on the line and a much more high-profile match too. So that one just sticks out more. So I can't honestly remember.
What do you know about Gary J?
Quite a bit. I've never wrestled him one-on-one, but I've I've known about him for quite a while. I've seen him and Warhorse have several matches live that were phenomenal. I've seen all of his social media stuff, of course. I mean, he's made a good name for himself. One of the things I enjoy most about him is he's a tough son of a bitch, and he's going to get in there and give you everything he's got, and he's going to go hard. So I'm really looking forward to our match on Friday. I'm really looking forward to finally getting a chance to meeting up with him one-on-one. I was just in a battle royal for Black Label Pro that he was in, but again, it's never been a one-on-one interaction. So that's definitely something I'm ready for.
One of my favorite things about wrestlers, and not everybody has this, and if they do, sometimes you don't notice it, and that is that part of their shit, quote unquote, is taking a move. And when you guys sit down and talk about what you want to do, he may say, hey, I want to take this particular move. And Gary J has a couple of those where it's like, it's pretty awesome. And lately it's been the apron pile driver. I mean, I've seen him take DDTs on the apron, on the floor, all kinds of stuff. He's kind of up for anything. So, you guys are going to have a tremendous match. And I think that's going to be awesome. And he may die. I don't know.
He very well might. If I have anything to say about it, he will. He is definitely a crazy motherfucker when it comes to that stuff. I've just the last weekend shows that I was on with him, I saw him take basically a Rikishi driver on the apron from Jake something, and then I don't remember what the second bump was, but it was another crazy apron spot move that he takes, and he makes it look like $1 million and takes it well. And he's one of those guys, like you said, and that's one thing that I noticed while I was watching some of his work is he has a lot of things that aren't him hitting a move to get himself over. He's taking something wild and absurd, and he's equally getting over the same way. I mean, the guy's smart. He knows what the hell he's doing.
He does, yeah.
But he's also, and one of the things that's kind of a lost art, I think, a little bit, maybe not a lost art, that might be a little too extreme, is guys are so concerned with getting their own shit in every match that they're not worried about, making the opponent look good. And regardless of what evolution we're going through in wrestling, that's one of those things that I don't think is changing or ever going to evolve. Is you got to be able to do things and make your opponent look as equally as good. If you're not, then who are you in there with, and what are you accomplishing by beating them? So I really love that he has those things, and he's not the only guy, but a lot of his stuff is pretty wild. And I've actually been debating in my head for the last couple of weeks on what I'm going to do to him on the apron. There's going to be something. There's going to be something for sure.
Yeah, that's tremendous. And folks, if you're not in the area, you can check that out on the Rockstar Pro Network. That'll have that up in a couple weeks after the show. You're also facing Shane Foster at War Wrestling and Respect on Sunday or Saturday. Excuse me. Tell me a little bit about War. We've been one time, and it was an extremely professional outfit. We loved it. It's just far away, and it's always on days where we have other shows. But tell me about War and what it's like working up there.
War is great. It's ran by Big Tom, who pretty much, if you're in the Toledo, Lima, Dayton area, or pretty much Ohio, you probably know who he is. He's been running for a very long time. I want to say it's like 12 or 15 years. That might not be accurate. It's over 10. I do know that. It's great to work there. I've kind of an interesting story that led me to War was I was early on in my career, I worked for Danny Daniels in AEW, and I probably at the time had no business being there. I was super green, super young, and I really wasn't hitting my niche there. And Danny suggested that I go down and work with Tom at War to develop, my work style and learning how to work in front of different crowds and just really developing and really working. And so I did. And Tom was great. I've been there now probably about 7 years, and I can't say enough good things. I mean, that's actually where the Dirty started. It wasn't me and Brandon as a tag team. It actually started with me, Jake Something, and Orlando Christopher as a faction. And another little fun tidbit about that is at the time where Tom brought that to me and to Jake and Orlando, I had about 8 months left, and I was going to be wrapping it up. I was injured at the time. I was not having a lot of fun. Just things weren't going very well. And I was ready to be done at the end of that year. and Tom brought that up to us. We sat down and talked to each other about it, and it was an opportunity for me to work with two of my good friends and to just have fun with it. And it ended up getting over really well down there, and that's what actually developed into the tag team. Me and Brandon being that is, it was already over. It was already a thing. We brought him in, and then we just kind of went on our own when we decided to go exclusively tag. But for like 7 months, all I was doing was showing up to shows and cutting promos because I was injured. And it was some really good times. He always has great crowds. The show is ran super professional. Tom knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to how to run a show. I mean, a lot of promoters could learn a lot from him. He always takes care of the boys. I mean, in my opinion, because he was trained by Al Snow, along with my trainer, Truth Martini and Danny Daniels. And so, I've always considered him one of the boys. He's gone through the wrestling training, just didn't end up wanting to be a wrestler and went a different route. But he always treats us with the utmost respect. Really gives guys that he believes in an opportunity and a platform to really show what they're about. And it's always in front of a great crowd. Honestly, the Lima crowd is probably one of my favorites. They're always just super into everything and ready, and they come to have a good time. They come to cheer who they love and boo who they hate, and it's just a really good environment.
Yeah, we need to make it up there more because, I was thoroughly impressed with the show that we went to, and it wasn't even like the main building that they usually run. It was like some kind of like charity show they were doing, and so, I need to get back up there and see some more shows because, Tom does run a tremendous ship up there. It's like the thing that blew me away the most was those programs that then have like the autograph thing on the back, so you could get the that is just awesome, man. I love little details like that. That's so cool.
It's awesome until you sign about 200 of them during intermission and before and after the show, and no one buys your merch because you're too busy signing the shit. But no, it's great for the fans. It really is, and they always do come up and get the autographs with them, and they're super into it. I swear to God, every month I'll sign the same program from the same kids each month, and it's great. Brandon used to actually get a kick out of writing just all kinds of different names in there, and they never knew the difference. It was kind of funny, because after the fifth time he would just start writing whatever. It was Ric Flair, Steamboat, or some just I think one time it was George or some stupid shit like that. So it's all in good fun. It's all and the fans enjoy it. And if you're listening to this before Saturday, and you have an opportunity to go to Lima for the War Hall of Fame show, I highly suggest it. The Hall of Fame show is the biggest show of the year. It's the anniversary show. There's going to be a lot of good matches, and that street fight, I plan on being very violent, so not going to want to miss that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Another place that I saw you, the most recent place I saw you at was OWA, Ohio Wrestling Alliance, the kind of new promotion there in Columbus. How's it? You were on both of those shows, is that correct?
No, I actually was not on the Unsanctioned Pro, unfortunately.
No, Are you
talking about just the OWA ran?
Yeah.
Yep, I was on their very first show that they had in a scramble, and then this last one versus Lexus Montez, correct?
Yeah, you beat up my friend. What the hell?
Hey, it happens.
He shouldn't have been in the ring with you, I guess. That's how that works. But
yeah, you should probably tell your friends not to piss me off and try to steal victories, and then they won't get the shit beat out of them. Or they will. It depends.
It is what it is, as long as I don't get the shit beat out of me, I'm cool. So, so that, they're going to have another show, I think, in March. So, nothing's announced or anything, but I hope we get to see you up there. That was a hell of a day. And, that first OWA show, that I had been to, man, it was a fucking blast. The crowd was insane. What's it like working in front of a crowd that is, I would say that's different than the War crowd. The War crowd is probably a little more sober than the OWA crowd. What's it like working in front of a crowd and you're wondering, am I crazier or are these fans crazier?
Oh, man, I absolutely love it. It brings out the best of me. The crazier that the crowd gets, the more insane they are, the chances are the more insane I'm going to get and be. There's just nothing quite like it. It really gets the adrenaline going. I remember, and to preface this too, I was going off of about 2 hours of sleep going into that show, and I had been sick previously for the last, I think, 3.5 weeks. So I was feeling like absolute dog shit. Tired is an understatement. And I remember when they announced the match was getting ready to start, they announced my name, and then the music hit, and hearing the crowd, and then when I came out, them just getting live, like, all that just goes away. And you're ready to go. You're in the zone. And I mean, I told the promoter before the show, minutes before the matches, man, I really hope I don't die. I feel like shit. And then at the end of the match, I felt great. And and that's just one of those things, man. Those crowds that get like that, and that they're amped up, they're hyped up. Those are the best crowds, hands down, to work in front of. And it just really sets that mood and that environment.
If you marry that crowd with tremendous in-ring product, you get the magic of wrestling. You get these kind of magic times that, we're all lucky enough to experience every weekend if we go, and that's why we started the Road Home from Wrestling podcast as one of those things. We want to share those experiences with everybody and try to get more people to come out. Speaking of which, folks can catch you at those shows. But do you have do you have any t-shirt shops or anything? Where can folks find your merchandise?
So right now, if you want merchandise and you're not able to make one of the shows, you can always message me. I do have a Facebook shop. Pretty much it's just, it's on Facebook. I've got the couple of shirts that I've got still in stock that you can order. Or you can really just shoot me a DM on any of my social media, whether it be Twitter at Austin Manix, or at Instagram at Austin Manix, or at Facebook. Same thing. They're all Austin Manix. I keep it pretty simple. But if you DM me or interested in buying any of the merch, I do ship out and can always get it taken care of through social media right now.
Oh, yeah, and you have cool merch, so folks should buy that, and they need to support, guys like you that are out here, driving hours and hours away just to, get that magic, a little bit of that magic of pro wrestling. So, I want to leave you with, wrap this up with one thing here, and, it's a question I ask all the time, and it's kind of generic, but I think it's important, especially in your case. You have come from... and this happens to a lot of pro wrestlers. You establish something and it doesn't work out. You establish something else and it doesn't work out. And, pro wrestling is being able to, change with the times and to, not hit the fastball, but hit the curveball that you don't know is coming. What's next for Austin Manix, and what is all this for? Why are you doing all this?
This might be a little bit of a lengthy answer, because you did touch on a couple of things that really stick out in my mind. And one of them is being able to adapt. And, when me and Brandon Brandon and I we had a couple good opportunities. We were almost signed by Impact until Brandon got injured the first time. And then they still had eyes on us for the following year, and were still interested in us until he had the neck injury, unfortunately, and had to hang it up. And that was the closest that either two of us had gotten for the hard work and all the time on the road away from the families and all the dedication and all the bullshit you hear every wrestler say. That was the closest that we had come to that. And then when he had to step out for a minute there, I didn't know what I was going to do, because I am getting older. I'm 37 years old. I just turned 37 in November. And, the body right now feels good, but, I don't know how much longevity it still has. And it was almost like a starting over again, and which sounds kind of crazy, because, I've been in for as long as I've been in, had a 7-year singles run and all that, but it just felt again like starting over, which can be super frustrating. But the one thing that sticks out is a couple different things, actually. One of them is, I don't want the last 11 years of my life and all the work and all the dedication and the time missed from my family and, all these other things that have happened to get me to where I am, to all be in vain. I need there to be a payoff. And I've got a lot of goals that I have not checked off my list. WWE was never really the immediate goal for me. I know that sounds crazy, because everyone gets in because they want to go to WWE. For me, It was overseas. It was getting over to the UK, getting over to Japan. Um, and now it's getting a contract with Impact or Ring of Honor or MLW, one of those companies that can put you, on TV, that you're under contract. So I still have a lot of things that I wanted to do. And another part of this is I have 3 kids, all boys. My oldest being 15, and I have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old. And one thing that I have taught them their entire life is that if you do the work, you will see the results. And I can't justify hanging it up rather, when I still have time left and I still have, the physical presence to be able to do this. I can't justify quitting just yet. I still have goals that I want to reach, and I don't want to teach them that when it gets hard, that you just back out because it's inconvenient for you. That's the time really to switch gears and figure out what you need to do to get to that next level and put the work in and basically just buckle down and get it done. It's just one of those things that has stuck out to me, and is really important to me. And I don't want to sit back in a couple of years or whenever it is done and say, man, like, it was fun and I met a lot of great friends and I had a lot of great experience, but I never got to do this and I never got to do that. And some of those things are the key reasons I got into this business. So I don't know if that fully answered your question, but that's kind of where my mindset was when Brandon and I had to end. Like, okay, well, I'm going to have to figure this out. And I feel like I have, and we're going in that direction now. So now really what I'm working for is to get that overseas. I want to go to Japan. I want the UK trip. I want to wrestle some of the talent over there. I've never been a guy that wanted to stay in one spot. I want to wrestle all different kinds of talent, all different styles, and challenge myself each and every day to be just a better worker as well.
Hey, man, that's a great answer. And, I can really appreciate a lot of the things that you said in there. I will tell you this, and we'll leave everybody with this today. First of all, go follow Austin Manix on all social media at Austin Manix. Hit him up if you need some merchandise, and go see him out at some of these shows. And we'll just kind of leave you with this. And I've told a couple of my wrestler friends this before who have said things to me like you just said. When I hang it up, I don't want it to be all for nothing, and I'll tell you this, it isn't. And you've already accomplished so much, man. You've already entertained all those fans. You've already walked through the curtain with 0 hours sleep and felt that energy and been able to transfer that and, and have that kind of exchange with the fans. And that's kind of what it's all about. If you don't enjoy that journey, that's when it's all in vain. That's when it's worth nothing. So, you are doing it. And, whether you end up fighting Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania or you end up at, in the UK, fighting some of those guys over there, I think that you've done a lot of great stuff in pro wrestling and you've affected a lot of lives. I've never heard a bad thing about you, so, and that's rare in pro wrestling. So, congratulations, I guess. I don't know.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I mean, that does mean a lot. And I hate to say, I guess, how I said it with it'll all be in vain, because you are right. You hit the nail on the head with the fan interaction. There's a lot of great people that are fans of mine who follow me on social media, travel to all the different shows, a lot of times inconveniencing themselves to make those shows. And I have been very fortunate to have a very, very good fan base that are very supportive. And you're right. I mean, I have entertained a lot of people in my 11-year time. And so to me, that does mean something. I have had fans reach out to me and tell me that they saw me do something, or just watching me wrestling help them escape from something, or whatever the case might be. And to be 100% honest, I mean, it doesn't pay the bills. You're right. But those are those things that mean the most, and those are those things that you're going to look back on and take with you throughout the years. When you're looking back on what you did and all your accomplishments, or shortcomings, or whatever it is, those things matter a lot. In fact, I recently had a younger kid, I think he was around 16 or 17, message me not too long ago and tell me how he was going through a really bad stage in his life, dealing with depression, anxiety, which I myself have gone through, and do the same thing, and basically just told me that thank you for doing what you do and being who you are, because it's helped me escape all that, and I got to just be entertained and have fun and live vicariously through you in some certain situations and all this. And to me, that's mind blowing because I'm just a dude, you know what I mean? And I am living out a dream of mine, and I feel like I'm the fortunate and the blessed one to be able to have been given that opportunity. But yet, you know, we sometimes often forget that a lot of us are on a platform that other people watch and look up to, and we actually do help in their everyday life. And that honestly means more to me than anything.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you joining me today, and I hope the rest of your car ride is easy. I hope this kind of, you know, killed some of that time for you, and glad we finally got you on. And this was a special request from Joy, by the way. So, you know, Joy from England reached out to me, a big fan of the show, big fan of you guys, you know, and she wanted to get you on. So I appreciate it, Joy. You rule. We love you. And, you know, I guess that's it. So you can follow The Road Home from Wrestling at The Road Home FW on Twitter and Instagram. We're on there now. So, and we're on Facebook as well. You know, for me and my guest, Austin Manix, thank you guys so much for listening.